Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 22nd of January to the 29th of January. First off is a request from Doji, a Camus, AMV, Brave Love, Galaxy Express 39, from 3 years ago. Very cool. This is a nice way to make it, the whole thing with the video that I just put out, but I'll put that somewhere else, or kind of deal. But let's check this out. I don't think I've seen any videos from Camus. Diegetic. I'm wondering if it's gonna be TV or the show. Nice. Oh, it's gonna be multiple things, because that was from like a later one. It's like a CG Galaxy Express, but then this is from the movie. Then this is so this is like franchise-wide, I think. I don't know if they're gonna use any of the TV show. Is this Eternal Fantasy? I don't remember. I've only seen Eternal Fantasy once and loved it, and I really should watch it again. I think I own it. Yeah, I like this one. I wonder what this song is from. It sounds like, it could be like an OPED type of thing. Ooh. The quality of the footage on that one is what it is. Oh, Galaxy Railways? Yeah, really delving into all this sort of stuff, which I haven't even tried yet. I mean, Eternal Fantasy is one thing, but yeah, I just haven't done the other specials and Railways and stuff. There hasn't been too much in the way of fancy stuff. That Dip to White was probably a transition and stuff. But it's been a lot of really simple wipes and cuts and stuff. All right. Oh yeah. Why didn't I use that cut in my video? That's such a good one. I'm pretty sure that was an original. I didn't look through original too closely, I guess. You can tell like, there's a lot of different installments because it's a lot of different productions and animation and stuff like that, different quality. It certainly looks like a cohesive story. That was good. That was a good sequence. Oh, okay, there you go. It's a theme. It's one of the themes somewhere at one point. Singing about 3-9. What is that ship? Holy crap. I think there was only a couple of clips of Adieu. Very little, though. That's interesting. That's a cool shot with... What do you mean Amado's in there? What clip is that from? That's so cool. Like every major ship in the one shot? What clip was that from? I'll admit I wasn't as exploratory or like thorough with my vid, but it is what it is. AMV by unknown source? And the HD version is... Oh! So this is sort of... Okay. For Karaoke Mugen. Okay, so they used... Emeraldus, yeah, Railways, Endless Odyssey, Cosmo Warrior Zero. I don't even know what that is. No, they absolutely used more than this though. They used 3-9 and Adieu at least. I don't know what year this would have been made from. It was made for Karaoke Mugen. I'm not even familiar with this. Collaborative open source for just karaoke in general. So I guess they were just like, that's interesting. So they just have it's just like it's just visuals for karaoke for a background for karaoke. So I guess there's not as much like visual. You don't want it to be too busy and involved. I guess you just want it to be like kind of decent visuals enough for the song as a vehicle for the song for the sake of karaoke. Where's this cut from though? Am I just silly and it's from Eternal Fantasy and I didn't even bother to look? Like, are you kidding me, dude? And where are they going? Andromeda to spoilers. This was nice. This is cool. Definitely with like you seeing the variance in quality of the video quality of some of these titles and stuff. It's not a flattering Not a flattering pause, unfortunately. It is what it is. But yeah, thank you for recommending that, Doji. That was nice. I didn't even. I was gonna do an OBS thing, and I treated it, and I didn't see it recorded. But at least I have this. At least. Fuck me. Well, let's go to some videos that I thought were decent. You know, pretty good. And let's first one from Clear and Sweet. He's living in Kyoto for a year. Crazy. Given the whole, he didn't meant the one bit of information that I don't know from this video. Maybe I missed it. I know that you're on visa with student visa for a year and 3 months, and so, and how the monetarily and everything. I'm curious. At what point did you record this video? Had you been in Japan for a week or a few days, or that day you had moved there and made this video? I just would have liked that frame of reference, I think, because you mentioned how it's like it's already the best decision I've made and everything, and I just wanted that frame of reference, I guess. But that's not like a big dig at the video or anything. It was like the one lingering thing I had, or maybe that's in the description or something. I don't know, or a thing I missed. I missed. But this is really nice. It kind of reminded me, and I hate to be like selfish comparing this to my own work. It reminded me when I did this, or whatever. It reminds me of the Access to Dazaki video that I made, where it's just me recording myself in like the woods, which, you know, yours is not the woods, next to this shrine, and then there's some other places around. But it's not like a walking travel vlog. You put the camera down and you're a fair distance away from it with a lav mic, talking about your thought process and everything, and your decision to move. And it's a different strategy or like rationale, I guess, than I've seen other people. Like everyone pretty much goes through like the teaching English to Japanese kids, most people, or through like another work visa, or, you know, with like, you know, Geeks Plus, for example, right? But for some reason it never occurred to me, just go to just enroll in a Japanese college to attend classes of learning Japanese, and then just be in Japan. That seems really easy, or like like. And you're 34, so it's not like it's like, oh, the time's passed for college or whatever. Like, no, that just makes so much sense. Of course. But I didn't quite catch how you would be able to live there indefinitely. I mean, like, at least if you have like a year, 3 months for this school visa, but I don't know does that translate into a work visa, and then that's like, how does this become perpetual? Because obviously, like every weeb wonders this sort of thing. Like, I just want to live in Japan, but I mean, I think Japan knows that. I think a lot of people would want to do that, and so they make it like not possible in that way, or, you know, make it a little more difficult. So that just makes things interesting, I think. But this is just really encouraging. It just like hearing your, you know, update and everything. It's not so much of as introspective of a video or anything, but it's just nice to hear if you're in this capacity, what your plans of doing for channel at this point, more like in person. I don't know. I don't think this is the first time you've shown yourself on camera, because you've recorded some of the panels that you've done in the past. But it's probably the first for a lot of people that have subscribed to you since a lot of your edited videos and voiceover stuff. So now that's like, yeah, and this has just been really interesting. And I will also mention, I don't know, I should probably be more like, yes, I'm going and actually plan it, but I have the intention of visiting Japan for the first time for my 30th birthday, which is in November, but probably going to be like October when that happens, or I don't know, neither. I don't know. But we're thinking something like that. But it's have to see. But if that's the case, if that does happen, I'll try to take you up on that offer, depending where I'm going to. I also haven't really decided what area of Japan that I want to be at, because I don't know if I really want to do Tokyo specifically. I want to do something kind of specific and memorable that's like more in the rural area, because I yeah, I don't know, but we'll see. I don't know, but yeah, great hearing from you. This is really nice. Yeah, Trent and I put out just a general Shonen Jump video. Just you don't know Shonen Jump. Kind of taking a little break from his yearly, not yearly, but by year, like going year by year with in Shonen Jump, and just talking about how there's more to it than you'd think. And I liked it. I do like the sentiment a good deal. Unfortunately, it's just not really anything I haven't heard before. Where it's like, oh, there's all the 70s stuff, and it's very under discussed. And I'm like, yeah, because none of it's translated. Like, I'm sorry. like, I would love to talk about Otoku Ibiki Gaki Daisho, but there's only 50 chapters out of, it's like 200, I think. It's kind of long. And the thing I literally just learned about it like this week or last week or something, and maybe I was just trying to in digest or something. It was supposed to end at like volume 10 or so. Like, there's a point where the author kills the main character, and the last page, he put like the last page with like Owari or something, like the kanji for the end or whatever, and an editor splashed a bunch of white paint on it and like forced him to continue the series, and it went on for another two or three volumes.
8 volumes.
Like, holy shit. I did not know that. And it's just so blatant. Like, he definitely dies, and then about a chapter and a half after that, it's like, he's alive, and then he's fine. Are you kidding me? Aspects of that is because it's untranslated, or just the stuff isn't as delved upon. And yeah, it's one thing to be like, yeah, Jump has Kochi Kame, but and like, look how long it is, but it's like, yeah, but we can't engage with it because like how much of it's translated. I definitely know the anime isn't translated. I mean, maybe some people have fan subbed it or something. I don't know how much the manga has really been translated all that much, or what portion. I haven't really looked at it. I'm pretty sure all of it's probably raw. And so it's like, no wonder there's no discussion about it. And the only things is the stuff we have access to, and then it's just sort of like, it has all these non-battle titles like Blue Box, and it's like, yeah, okay. I don't want to like sweep the whole thing under the rug, because like it is all valuable stuff to say, and it's important to be said. I think it's good. And I much liked the end of this, towards the end of this video, where you're talking about like pushing against these fans that are just like, it's for boys, that's it. Get over it. It's for boys. It says shonen in the fucking thing, so get over it. And he makes the argument that it's like, no, it's really for everybody. And these themes are universal, and it does so much more and everything like that. And to me, I mean, this was sort of similar to an argument that I would have been making about Battle Shonen, but Shonen Jump in particular, because Shonen Jump was real. I think we have to be honest with ourselves that like, it's not the only one that was doing Battle Shonen, but it's the one. It's the one. Every single, almost every single, obviously manga is a manga history and everything. There's everything, people were doing various things. It's history is messy, but like they're the ones. And to me, I frame it as the thing like, why are they the most popular magazine? Why are they have the most popular titles? Why are the even just like, wondering why Battle Shonen is so popular compared to everything else, even in the same magazine, like the gag series, like Roboco, which I appreciate you talk about. Like all this, like all these gaps that people ignore. It's important to point them out, but I've seen them being pointed out before, and I've probably pointed them out in some other places, not like in a dedicated video, really. But to me, the Battle Shonen stuff, you touch upon it, is the most universal stuff. Like, it's so broad appeal because it incorporates nearly every type of manga that was being made. That it's an amalgamation of the best that manga can offer, and it makes it the most broad appeal. Any age, any gender, any social class, these are really universal, broad, appealing, fun, great stories. And that's why you know. But then the moment you introduce where it's just gags, or it's just, you know, school romance type of thing, or it's not really like about it, you know, there's some aspect that's missing, that's not, that kind of makes it not a battle shonen. You see its broad appeal narrow. It becomes more niche, and that's fine. It doesn't mean that they're worse stories at all, but they're just more niche, or they just have a particular appeal to them. Yeah, it's just I like the sentiment a good deal, and I especially agree with the ending where this is a manga, this is a magazine for everyone. And I think, and what I point when I add there isn't necessarily like a point of criticism. Oh, you missed this or something. I'm just adding to that like it's not even just for everyone. That's the key to its success. That's why it's the most popular. It, like, you look at the highest grossing manga, like the number of volumes sold, highest selling manga in the world. I think it's like, I can't even remember. I don't want to give the number off the top of my head right now, but I remember looking at it and it's like, it's almost all Shonen Jump. The only ones that are up there that are not Shonen Jump is Conan, Go-Go 13, some Tezuka stuff like Blackjack. I'm trying to think of any of Berserk, maybe. I don't even think Berserk's even that high up there, actually. It's certainly critically acclaimed, but I don't think it's that high up there, to be honest with you. But it's nearly universal that it's like it's Jump, you know. There was something that's certainly climbing up there recently, like Blue Lock and stuff, that they, you know, they get of the year and stuff like that. But cool. Is it Slam Dunk? It's, you know, yeah. Anyway, but I just adding to that. But I agree with the sentiment. But it's just a sentiment I've heard before. That's why I'm not like as enthused about it. But I do like it. I do appreciate it. First time I think I'm talking about Schnee, how Miyazaki writes women. I don't know what the this is the same guy that mostly is, he really shot to popularity talking about Arcane, riding that wave, and then he's talked a lot about Spider-Verse. And especially when you start this video, it really feels like one of those like just general media tubers that are super how to write a character. You know, I'm sorry. I'm so sick of it. I have a bit of a okay. You know. Anyway, but I did like the video. I did stick through the 40-minute video because I like Miyazaki. Yeah, I like Nausicaa. Yeah, okay. I'll listen, sure. And it did keep my attention. Not through like it's. I don't know. I'm going to be a bunch of digs and criticism, I guess, even though I like the video. The editing is really rudimentary. It's a lot of clips, and he does a lot of this thing where putting the text of the thing he's saying in the script on screen, and he just does that a lot. And I think it's sort of a way to avoid content ID, sort of. But he's using short enough clips. I don't think it's going to do any. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. But I think it's more of a way to visually like keep string the audience along almost. It's a little babyish, but I guess it works. Babyish in terms of just like holding your hand too much, like a hand holdy. And, you know, I think that maybe is good for me because I kind of have the attention span and things can fly over my head. And I think especially the way this video felt very scatterbrained in its hopping over all different types of media. And he's not covering all of Miyazaki's work, which like is not a prerequisite, but it felt a little arbitrary when he's talking about so broad of his work. It's like, I think it's 8 of his films or so, 8 or 9. And there's gaps of knowledge that he says in the video at the end are like, I have specific gaps of Lapida, Wind Rises, and Kiki, even though he kind of mentions Kiki and shows Kiki like once or twice, and has her on the thumbnail. I just realized. Okay. And then, but it's like, then watch the movies then. Like, I don't, it was a weird, it's weird omissions, and I think it's also like they might not have actually contributed much to what you're arguing here, all the different points of why the women are so good in the movie, in his canon or whatever. Also, just not even thinking, not even showing or considering anything of what he did pre Nausicaa at all. Which I get is a little niche. I understand, but maybe that could have helped a little bit with where all that comes from. And I wasn't like you should read his starting point or something like that. And I was happy that he really didn't go too much into Miyazaki's psychoanalysis or like trying to understand him as a person or something like that, or using his picture too much. He wasn't trying to mythologize him. He was just kind of like analyzing these characters in these movies. And I also did like, it was a kind of a bit of a refreshing thing insofar as kind of rejecting that typical how to write a character type of video. He very openly tries to reject or challenge this like buzzword type of thing where they're saying the Ghibli girls are independent, right? And it's like, okay, what does that mean? And are they really independent, or let's actually try to find more nuance to this? And I did appreciate that he kind of more frames it as like they're actually alone, physically, psychologically, idealistically, and that's what leads them to appearing independent. And so finding the details in it, I think he pretty much got a lot of it right. But there's a couple of things I didn't really take any notes. But he felt a little dismissive towards the love aspect just because he didn't understand it. And so it's like, I don't know why you bring it up in the video as a section and try to talk about it when you admit in the video that you don't understand it. And there was a similar kind of take backsies or like he didn't go back and revise it that much. I don't know. Where he's wrestling with trying to find the proper term for this lo-fi girl appeal. Yeah, there's another thing where like he's throwing in the girl from Whisper of the Heart, even though that's not a Miyazaki movie. Although I believe he did write it, or he's like involved in the creation of it in that capacity. So I mean, sure, but at least he wasn't like trying to make it out like, Tale of Princess Kaguya is a Miyazaki movie. He didn't make anything that egregiously wrong. But like he's like, I'm 90% sure it's this term. And then like 10 minutes later in the video, he's like, rather than saying this term, it should be more like this term. And I'm like, what? Choose one. Like, why did you go with this term earlier in the script? And then we're like, actually, I'm gonna change that. Like, just say it what that is from the beginning. I think it's because he really liked what he wrote there and doesn't want to scrap it, or it flows in a particular way. And so it's like, well, I have to, and instead of taking a bit more time to really revise and like make a synergy with the terms that he's using, that he's creating. And I'm sorry, I forgot the precise terms of what those are, but it was something to do with that lo-fi girl appeal or something like that. That they're like, in their conflict or something like that, okay. Yeah. And that, yeah, he was really just trying to like do a catch-all of a lot of these. And I think what made the video a little disorienting for me, and where a lot of it, even though he has the words on screen so the ideas kind of stick a little better, they ultimately don't stick that much because the structure of this is a little wasn't as followable, I guess, because it's really just a list of words that he as catch-alls, which he's saying kind of regret, like he's like trying to reject at the beginning of this video and not just say that they're this, but he's still using them as terms, and they're timestamps in the video, and that's how he, for the most part. There's some others like his discussion about the men in the movies and stuff like that. Is kind of a lot of general. I would worry that it's a lot of generalization, but he does give plenty of ample examples. With like Chihiro does this, Sophie does this, and giving plenty of like, support for his arguments, and I think those are fine. But I think what steer roundabout, what made it disorienting was that I don't know if this was really the case, but it felt like he would like rapid fire these examples at you at random, like in a random order. It would be like talking about Mononoke, Howl, Totoro, this, and then it'd be like Porcoroso, Lazuka, Totoro, this. It was like in a completely random order every time, and it's not going. How do they write women? I think what could have helped with this is like, let's focus on Chihiro. She represents one aspect of Miyazaki women that I want to talk about, and you can involve the others and extrapolate of like, and showing the visuals and cite examples, but use the one character as the core of that topic, of like the one word. And so instead of just general words and then rapid firing at random through all these different examples and stuff and bouncing back and forth and kind of all over the place, if you had the one character analyzing them through this idea, but extrapolating it outwards, I'm repeating myself. But yeah, I think that could have been a better structure. Something like that doesn't make it feel like you're rapid fire. And then of course the video itself, not to be super hypercritical or anything, because I get this is not easy when you do video essays. I certainly have this problem, and like, how do you, because these are all dissonant points that you want to say, but you want to put it in a linear format. Like, at what point do you say what? And making those choices can be difficult. I get that. But then, yeah, this kind of did just feel like a list that wasn't building on each other. It was a lot of the disparate, different ideas. And then a couple ideas in here that I kind of didn't really understand why they were being brought up at all. Like the Lo-Fi Girl thing, and like, why do we like this in Miyazaki movies? Why do we like when they're just sitting around and doing laundry? And like, this is a good idea that could be its own video. Why is it in here? That's what's sometimes occasionally frustrating me about. And I get it when it's like, this is all I want to. I'm not gonna make a dedicated video to this thing, so I'll shoehorn this in now because I'm not gonna talk about Slam Dunk again, so I may as well say this. I get that temptation. I've probably fallen into that temptation. So I get it, but it's just something I noticed where this, like, there's the men, I think, as well, where I like that you're using it as a way to contrast what the women are like, or in the way that they're bouncing off the character and everything. So it makes sense that it's in there in some extent, but it obviously feels kind of underdeveloped because you're talking about it very briefly. So it's a difficult thing about it. But it certainly it caused me to think, an interesting discussion. I don't think I learned anything new necessarily because, I think one of the best things with Miyazaki is how clear he makes everything. And I've said this ad nauseum at this point to myself as well as outwardly. But his whole thing, to me, what is consistent with most of his movies is that he really lets everything is so clear. And I think he actually, Schneeb does bring that up, where the characters are always talking very frankly and are able to just say something without any inner conflict. And that can appear as a flaw on the surface, but he rationalizes why it's not. But yeah, I enjoyed the video a fair amount. I kind of know, I think it was a little too long, and the structure was sort of like a hodgepodge melange. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Something fancy, some fancy vocabulary term that I don't use in my everyday life. Sure. It was fun to talk about. It was interesting. I don't think I talked about the first time The Masked Man has done this kind of video. I let YouTubers recommend me stuff to read. It was a mistake. Classic kind of YouTubery. I've done it. I'm guilty. I know. But this was, first of all, what really incentivizes me to talk about it is the visuals here. Very impressive. There's no editor credited, so I'm assuming he did it. And I saw some people in the replies being like, wow, this is really well edited. And he's like, so yeah, he did it. So this is him editing it, I presume, because I'm pretty sure he's had editors before in other videos, I think. But for this one, is really impressive and flashy, and a whole video game aesthetic. I don't know what that has to do with manga and YouTubers recommending you manga, but it's cool. I like it. I'm wondering if you're using any of this interface, the UI and everything, and the aesthetic of this video, if this is going to apply to other videos as well. I'm certainly been doing that with some of my videos where I'm like using the same avatar character, using the same kind of BG for certain things. Like I'm just kind of thinking about like using this particular BG that I made for Disney's Mortal Sin like years ago at this point. That BG kind of changing the colors, but using that as like when I'm going to be off script, if I'm making a video that's unscripted, using that as the aesthetic to let the viewer know that or something. Or is a lot of this kind of like one and done, like invent it and then move on to something else. I'd hate to see it wasted because it's really impressive. And he read a lot of manga for this. He did he was 15, so it ended up being a top 15. And I don't have much to say about what he has to say about these series because it kind of just reads like not even Mal review, like Kitsu impression. Like the Kitsu has this thing where you can just kind of write a tweet long little summary of the things you like about it, and what your impression is, and people can upvote that and everything. That's kind of their version of reviews, really. A little more social media-ish. It's completely self-contained within their own. Anyway, but they're fine. But it's sort of like that. It really wasn't going anything super deep. There was no structure or format to what he would talk about. I would imagine that, he's still kind of rolling on the same, being pretty much unscripted and just kind of going off on a microphone, which is fine. And this is what Mr. Beast and everyone is kind of recommending, is to kind of ditch the scripted stuff because it's no point. You can get just as good stuff for the audience of YouTube, just through being unscripted, apparently. I mean, hello, this is because there was no structure to, like, there's a format here. Like, he's going through the YouTubers or the creator, the influencers, whatever. I think it's mostly YouTubers. I think it says, yeah, because he's a lot of YouTubers. I think all of them have YouTube channels, but I could be wrong. And choose, the format. This person, great channel. He's my relationship with them. That was kind of my favorite part, really, of being like kind of introducing these people and being like, this person means to me in this way, and kind of like is a bonding sort of thing, and that's really cool. That's like a really great way for community outreach and everything, and I just really love that. And the sort of the relationship that he has with them, given the manga that they suggest. Like, it was really funny that they could say so in character for Nux to recommend him Made in Abyss, and he's like, I already read that, and Nux is like, fuck you then, interspecies reviewers. And he's like, so that was very in character, like that sort of thing. I think that was probably my favorite part of the video, is just that little banter, not just with Nux, but with every other creator, of his kind of relationship with them almost. But I couldn't get too much out of like what he would talk about substantively of the series. I think it's just good for exposure to some of these series, and so some of it is just kind of like, oh, okay, you read Promised Neverland, all right. And there isn't anything new or substantive as much. But besides hearing his impressions, like, oh, Maskman finally read Promised Neverland, and yeah, he thinks the ending sucks, as everyone else apparently does. And he's like, all I had heard that the ending sucks. And yeah, the ending sucks. Or whatever. And it's like, okay. And so it really ends up being what the YouTuber is and what they recommend, and then the presentation of these manga, I think, was really the standout of the video, which is fine. That's certainly what my latest video of trying to do is mainly about the visuals and the material itself. And I think for some of them, it went by really quick. Like, the manga panels were going by like super rapid fire and really dense and packed and everything. And it got me thinking that, like, maybe even if it's still unscripted, you can still have a structure of what you're saying about them. Because I noticed, like, some of these manga things. Sometimes you would introduce what the manga is and what it's about and actually say what it's about, and other times you would just go straight into your impressions of it, probably because it's Boruto. Like one of these is Boruto, so it's just like, yeah, we don't need that. But that made it very kind of uneven, and not I'm not able to kind of pay attention or like follow it as much because I don't know what to expect every time. Whereas if there was some sort of skeleton that you can say whatever you want about it, but it's within the confines of what was your favorite page, or your favorite chapter or something like that, and talking about it in that frame of like, yeah, this happened in this chapter and I really liked when this happened, this character did this and everything like that. That at least could have given something of like, unique perspective, because so many YouTube videos, right, or just discussion in general, so much of it is, unless it's an ongoing series like One Piece, so much of it is as a whole, which I get. It's a sequential story. It's not to be like just chapter whatever. But I just feel like there's a lot of value to be had in incremental analysis, not just character analysis, but like within, one chapter, the paneling of this thing, or this page that you really like, the spread is really impressive, something like that. And that could at least stand out and not just be like, Promise Neverland, the first arc's great and then it sucks. Like, yeah, but everyone's saying that. I don't know. If you chose a chapter like this really stood out to me, or this was, especially because you're ranking them, and that's the other thing about the structure of the video. I couldn't figure out, is this the order you read them in? I think it is the order he read them in, because he says like, oh, this was kind of in between this manga that sucks and this good one, or whatever. So it seems like it was just the ones that he read, and it was completely arbitrary in that regard. It wasn't by length, it wasn't by alphabetical or anything. And that leads to some kind of fun randomness and kind of grab baggy, you never know what you're going to get type of feeling. But it doesn't have any logic to it. It doesn't have like a through line of worst to best, or oldest to newest, or something like that. And yeah, it just felt very sporadic in that way, but it has its own appeal. But then you get to the actual ranking at the end of the video, and this is just a small visual thing about the edit, because obviously I think the video game UI is really incredible. I thought, especially with the book at the end, Blood Rich, something like that, some book, I'm sorry, that was by the No Country for Old Men author, using kind of pixelated images and some kind of graphic to showing this book was really impressive. It was just really visually striking, I think. Really effectively done. And I get a lot of these, like, I think that the general, like, visual look of the way the manga was being shown by some panels and some pages, while there's a couple that I think would go by too quick or a little too dense, showing too much or whatever, and so you couldn't like rest your eyes on one single sequence or image or something like that. It is all presented at least really nice with like kind of like certain and differently too. I was waiting to see kind of like, oh, is this like a preset and you just plug the page in and do the same thing? And that could have been the case somewhere if I was really looking for it, but I didn't see anything like that. So that was also really impressive. The visual inventiveness of every series. It didn't feel like carbon copy formulaic, predictable in that sense. And that's different from structure, which can be followed and predictable in its own way. But I think in terms of retention and like keeping of all, not that it makes much of a difference. You probably better retention than me. So, but then the ending with the ranking, maybe this is just me with, seeing other videos do this or whatever. I don't know. I guess I would prefer it if when you're doing from 15 to 1 that you show, you keep the title on screen. So what he did was 15, like the title, and then some footage of the like what you'd already rendered and what you'd already shown, like in the same sequence, not like reinventing the wheel or anything. That's fine. But then it'd be 14 and just individual numbers instead of like the Letterman top 10 or something like that, where it'd be like number 10 this, number 9 this, and having them all on screen the viewer can have a full scope and a frame of reference for everything that he read, I guess. And seeing the full, seeing that full picture for me. And especially because, like, if the video is not structured, something like Super Eye Patch Wolf's like top 10 favorite things of summer or whatever like that, that's fine to not have like on that list or whatever if that's how you're presenting it, like in the video itself. But you've already shown all of them, and now you're doing the ranking in its own order. I think in that instance, I would want to see because it's like a summary, like a wrap up type of thing. So you'd want to have it all. I would want to see it all on screen in that case. And it was also just kind of arbitrary and weird for me the way there was like 3 or 4 different TV screens to show the footage. Like, so it would be like number 15 and it's like a room with a TV screen in the middle. I'm like, oh, this is kind of a neat way to again, visual inventiveness and showing a different thing. And it did that TV thing for 3 of the 15, 14, 13. And then it changed to a different TV, like a closer up TV for like 12, 11, 10 or something like that. I'm like, okay, so like every 3 or something. But then it was like every 2 and 1, and it just felt really arbitrary. And it would go back to so it would cycle through like 4 different shots of an overlay of a TV with the footage in the TV and everything. But then go back to the first one in whatever. I'm like, choose one or have it rotate in like in an ascending sort of way. It was just kind of a distracting editing choice for me personally. I just like, I guess for me with like symmetry, and it'd be like, keeping something off center, or I don't know. It was just a strange thing that stuck out to me, I guess. But yeah, otherwise that was fun. I enjoyed that. I would I'd be up for seeing more of those because again, I think the community outreach is great of this, really. Yeah, it was nice. And I did end up catching Totally Not Mark's Genius of Luffy, Anatomy of One Piece. So there's a new series that he's going through every Straw Hat member of One Piece and talking about why they're a genius character. And this isn't new for One Piece related channels. I know Melon T has gone through I think she's gone through all of them by this point. And now kind of doing different side characters and stuff like that, going through Vivi and Boa and etc. And Craftsdwarf, I'm pretty sure, did this years ago as well, kind of going character by character, a dedicated video for each one. And I mean, I'm certainly tempted to do it. I think it's a great idea. I'm not pointing all this out being like it's redundant or something, because I'd like to hear Mark's perspective on this sort of thing, and it's in an enticing format, and I certainly like the idea. I made years ago I made 6 reasons to watch Ojamaja Doremi, and that was just a 6-part character analysis of just going through each one. And I mean, it's right there. 10 reasons to watch One Piece, it's the 10. It's right there. And my only hesitation for doing that is because I want to see the entire thing. For my only reason to not do it right now is because I need to see all of it. I need to see where they end up, because I have a really strong feeling that the ending kind of matters for this one. And I mean, can you imagine of doing Kraftwerk did it for like a whole, it is possible to do these analysis of Luffy and everything before Gear 5, but then you think of doing it now and it's like, wow. But it is interesting that Marky he barely touches on Gear 5 actually, because he focuses more on the relations that Luffy has with other characters, and I like that idea. And he's quoting a lot of the these books that he cited before of making what's good character writing, and I made fun of that in a previous segment here, and I'm not the biggest fan of this sort of thing, even though I've done it. Just because I don't know, I think it can get very vague and not really deepening the discussion of the series itself. I think it's sort of like flagellating. I don't know if that's really the word. Whereas there's motivation. I'm going to defend what I do with the reason I did it was just that, like, at the time, no one had made a full video of Ochimanja Doremi, like covering the entire series, and I wanted to do it through the framing and perspective of the 6 characters and why they're worth watching the show for, and not in that. And so they are in itself a character analysis, but both Mark and Schnee give the vibe of like, what's good character writing just in general, like a good protagonist does, you know. And I'm not as enthused about that, I guess, when it becomes more whatever. I did like that how Mark frames the video at the beginning of it's not that deep, and be like, well, actually it is more deep than you think. And he's using that to kind of like discuss the main character of this very popular series. And he does kind of wrap it up at the end, being like, so if you just think that Luffy's a goofy pirate that just likes eating food, that's fine, but there is more genius to him. And I do like that sentiment for sure, because he's a very straightforward character on the surface. And he's like, no, but it's about loneliness and what he does, his relations to other characters and stuff. I thought that was a great... So ultimately, I did like the analysis because it's very outward thinking, thinking towards Luffy's place in the series and not being super vacuum and isolated as one of the things that he's citing. So like, and here's the thing, I'm not against citing and using books like this of like good character, right? You know, whatever. I think that's cool because it is grounding your idea into something else and not just kind of like making shit up. at least someone else is making it up, and then you're like taking from this side. Like, I think they have a lot of great points, and here's what I'm extrapolating what they're saying through this character. That's good. I think that's totally cool. Yeah, and I like that. But it's just I don't know. I'm not as like, oh my god, give me more of this. I'm loving this. I'm not as much into that, but that's okay. But I guess I just wanted to talk about it because it did keep my attention all the way through, which is, look, that is a strong compliment for me with a One Piece video, because I've realized I have this intolerance. I just have like it's much harder for me to watch a One Piece video without cringing, because I really love the piss out of this series. And it's because it's so popular, I think it's very easy to kind of encounter cringe discussions of it. And so I kind of feel a bit more on my guard when that happens. So Mark talking about it, you know, I went into it being like, I'm not sure if I'll finish this or not. I'm not sure of where he's going to take it, but I liked where he took it. And I liked the presentation as well. Because at this point, there's really no difference with like, whether he's experiencing it one medium or another. I'm talking about the manga, even though he is talking about the manga in this case, but it doesn't matter in this instance because it's just a character thing, and it's more of a broad discussion, which is great. So I had no qualms at all about although I did find it interesting with you showed, and of course I'm going to bring this up. Of course I'm going to bring something like this up in his bits. It's like he's the only creator that's like this for me. Like, Maskman used footage of Alita, even though he only was talking about the manga and stuff. But I don't know. I don't know. But it was interesting that he used the same clip and manga panel like in 2 different times, which is showing off how that scene happens in 2 different contexts. There is a bit of a slight difference there, and then you know, Mark bringing up how Kobe's the POV character to who Luffy is, specifically with the anime, because that's the first time we see Luffy, whereas in the manga, the introduction of him is his flashback in chapter 1 is his, you know, flashback with Shanks, which is a very different first impression of who this character is versus who who he becomes in the pre-time skip. That period of his character is very different. Not super different, but he's okay. There's something else to him, which I find very interesting. There's a certain thing about him. But this isn't so much of a. I really like that Mark didn't go the route of some summary or not to throw this other stuff under the bus. I'm just like, at least it's not a no. It might be kind of like that. No, it's because there's so many aspects to Luffy. It's a long story, and him being selective with like, I like to highlight Amazon Lily. I'm like, hey, cool, I like that. Or mentioning with the end of Sabaody and everything, and he's not trying to like fully encapsulate his character and go beat by beat understanding him and everything. It's like kind of the stuff that stands out to him that supports this point. I'm in a similar position that his argument with Usopp, that in the Mary, that scene specifically is so captivating, even more so than his fight with Usopp. Not that Mark is making that argument necessarily. Like, he's like, oh, it's better than the fight. I mean, yeah, and God, Water 7. Oh my God, it's so good. Oh fuck. Oh man. But yeah, I liked it because it was going in places I wouldn't expect, and I think he treats the story with pinpoint accuracy. There was something he said that I was, that he's like, this is where everyone argues that the story gets good. I disagree. It gets good at the beginning. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Oh my God, I'm so annoyed. I love Arlong Park. I love it. Although I will say, hot take maybe, the Luffy Help Me scene, on its own, is the best thing in the East Blue Saga. I would argue, but the arc, like the whole arc, I think Baratier is a little stronger. I think as a whole, encapsulating it start to finish, I kind of still prefer Baratier, but that Luffy Help Me save Luffy Help Me. Besides that, which is the single best thing in that saga, that's what I would argue. I'm just saying. Not that it's anything that Mark's saying. No, I appreciate it. He said so. There was things that I'm like, amen, and yeah. So I'm like, I'm sold on him talking about One Piece in this way, because he's not overly gassing it in some way, in a cringe way. He's not saying anything that's just like, well, that's stupid and wrong, or whatever, or like that's a bad take or something. Yeah, and it's also making not generalizations about other stories, and and like throwing other series under the bus compared to One Piece or whatever. Don't do that. Anyway, yeah, I like the vid. It was nice. I'm looking forward to the other members. Or maybe if you do other outside the Straw, I don't know. You got plenty to where you could, but it would become a One Piece channel at that point. I wouldn't mind that. Just yeah. Okay, and now what I thought were the best videos of the week. What I thought were the best video. And I'm gonna start with my own. Oh no shit. I'm just gonna shout it out. Just saying. I put out a tribute video to Leiji Matsumoto. I didn't really have a good title for it, so I just said Leiji because I'm gonna call it the Leiji video for the rest of my life, because that's what I call all of my videos. I call it the Gurren Lagann video, the Moomin video, the Slam Dunk video. I don't recognize their titles at all. And maybe other YouTubers are like that, but I wonder, because it's like they've made so many of other series and stuff, and for me, I can be like, my Gurren Lagann video, I don't have another one. I have the one. Yeah, so no, but that's fine. Anyway, I like it, and been meaning to make it for a while. Like, I had the idea in like before September, like really early, like probably May or June of last year, and then just kicked it down the road. We'll talk about that. I don't know. Then it turned into that, and I hopefully have I probably make videos like it, in terms of it's one song and writing the script within that confines of that one song, whether that song is 6-ish minutes. In this case, it kind of lasted to about 7. And then or the one that's upcoming. I think the song is only like 3.5 minutes, so that's how short it's gonna be. I don't care. I don't care. That's fine by me. Easy to me for me to make, so I actually get stuff out, and but stuff I really like. Anyway, yeah, that's that video. If you haven't seen it, yay. Big vid from Baseball Doesn't Exist. I don't think I've talked about him on Digest because he's definitely not an anime YouTuber. And there's no anime and manga to speak of in this video, but I want to still mention it because I think it's a cool perspective about Japanese culture. In this case, their relationship to baseball. And when it says how Japan took over baseball, it makes it seem like it's going to be like a biography type of thing, and he doesn't. That's not his style. So this a very different kind of channel from what I stuff I normally talk about, but I really like his stuff because he has such intense energy, and it feels like the intro of his video, if you just check out this video and watch like the first 10-15 seconds, the way he's talking is the cadence and energy at which he talks the entire time, from like into the last second. There's no hope you enjoyed the video. He literally just like finishes the paragraph and the video ends. It's very abrupt like that. And it's always as long as so that way it always feels like it's as long as it needs to be. So for this to be an hour is like, oh boy. And I mean, I think he repeats himself a couple of times in this vid, but it is what it is. Sort of reinforcing some ideas. I think it's fine. It's in best really because it's just how like broadening a perspective it is and putting things into context of how much baseball really means to Japan, mostly as of like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, around that perspective, which I think is a perspective I want because it's kind of I'm not as familiar with it really, and it's not something you can glean from baseball anime and manga, I don't think, but it did kind of at least Kyojin no Hoshi made me think about this video made me think of Kyojin no Hoshi, of the way how seriously they take baseball and the training regimens and shit like that, of kind of everything. It's and how important the Koshien is. He puts it in real world perspective of like, this is how many people watch it and attend the game. This is what it's done for their careers, and this is the stuff that they've done. He kind of relays a lot of stats to you and a lot of sources, but none of them are in the description or in any way you can look this stuff up for yourself. He just shows you the footage, so it's pretty easy to believe. It's pretty but because he's throwing so much at you and then occasionally does use the same clip 4 or 5 times to demonstrate what he's talking about, oftentimes it can make you feel like it's hard to separate fact from fiction, or like fact from gas, just kind of hyping, like really exaggerating something, this is an exaggeration or hyperbole or whatever, just to kind of make the video more sensational, because there's so much sensational stuff as it is, and he's showing a lot of these, and a lot of them have the supporting articles and the news clippings and the footage and everything. So it's safe to say that all that he's saying is true and accurate, but it's hard to when you don't have any source, when you don't put any sources. But his source list would probably be like super long because he's rattling off so many facts and stats and examples and everything. It's really well documented, but it's not very well cited, I guess would be the way I phrase it. I just feel like even then, even those, like, so I would say you'd have to watch this video with a grain of salt in terms of just like, okay, it could be whatever, but certainly taking the things that you can directly see, the newspaper clipping and something that you see for your own eyes, and was like, oh, okay, that's probably what it is. Probably take that for most safely. But that's like any piece of information, whether that's a YouTube video or a news article or newspaper, TV report, Discord message, really anything, because the person that's sending that information is fallible, and you yourself are fallible with your own biases and perspectives and timing of things and the way you interpret stuff and the context to which you find this information and everything. That's just how we have to treat information and things. It's in general, but I guess it's just a general lesson. um, but yeah, it's a very entertaining video. Maybe too long. Maybe it could have been like 10 minutes shorter or 15 minutes shorter. I don't know. I don't know exactly because it's not. It does have a structure to it in terms of like going through different sections and stuff, and all the information is kind of bundled together. But it really like so it's sort of like in bags, but it's a bunch of like rattling off a lot of anecdotes and facts and things and stuff, but he's not like painting a specific narrative in the same way, and not at least towards the end of like the last third, which he does feel more historical in nature in terms of like, oh, in this year this happened, this person went through this, and so to do this they did this, and this led to this, and that it becomes a little more biographical towards maybe the last fifth of the video or so, and that's showing how specifically how it took over baseball, like as we know it, of baseball, Shohei Ohtani and everything. I really liked that part where it's like here, this is what they thought of Japan, or the MLB and everyone around kind of generally saw Japan as, because this was their frame of reference, and but then so much of the video was taking place exclusively in Japan of what they do and how much they take it seriously, and just the kind of cultural differences. And then, but like the U.S. had no idea about any of this at all. And it was because of this clause, specific this particular thing. When it gets to that point, and this one baseball player who leaves like the Japanese league in pursuit of the MLB, they realize how much of a lucrative opportunity it is, and it leads to this other player that gets even more popular and more successful, and at least it creates a domino effect of sorts, and then kind of ends the video with Shohei Ohtani, and he's like, this guy went through the exact system, like faithful as you could imagine, that I painted for. Like, this is how serious they took it, this is how serious he took it. He is cut directly from this cloth that I've built this whole video up towards, and this is his results, this is his success, and about it. He doesn't even have to give you all the stats and everything. It's just, he gives it, the results sort of speak for themselves almost. And that has opened the floodgate because of his presence and how good he was. That's opened the floodgates and has increased the participation of Japanese players in the MLB, into where you have more players now that there's like a major star who's just been in the Koshien like this year or last year, and he's going to be like the first player that goes straight from high school baseball, Koshien and everything, directly to an American college, so that he gets to the MLB even faster and skips the Japanese league altogether. And that's a huge step and everything. So like that aspect, I think, was really what made it the best, for like one of the best videos for me, was just like that last 20 minutes or so, really breaking that down. But it is supported by the 40 minutes of hyper detail and exhaustive examples of just what the reality is for Japan and its relationship to baseball, without it being super biographical and going from the beginning and charting the history or something. It was more of just a flurry of anecdotes, and to give you a full sense of it, bouncing back and forth on the timeline and hopping back from 80s 90s, where I remember at one point we were watching the video, I'm like, it's like the timeline's a blur. It doesn't matter, because human nature is so similar. Like, it doesn't matter if this happened in the 70s or it happened in the 90s or it happened in the 2010s. It doesn't seem to matter for a lot of these examples. It kind of contextual or whatever, but it felt like that, at least to me. But yeah, I saw a very exhaustive, compelling, interesting, additive, great. CineClinic debuts his video 5 hours ago, or at least when I'm recording this. The Japanese say you have 3 faces, citation needed. And it's not about, and I commented this on his video, where I'm like, I feel like you could still make this video and acknowledge that it's not a Japanese thing. But it's a video about how he almost made a video about Spy Family, and kind of analyzing how it follows this saying about Japanese people, but it's not a Japanese proverb. It what turns out to be a Portuguese phrase, like discussing the Japanese people, and it's like a totally different context. It's like, it kind of learning that, and then kind of debunking that misinformation for himself, shattered the motivation to make that video. I've been there. I've totally been there. I'm like, although, like I said, and I commented this on the video, I do feel like he still could have made the video, but then correct them in the information, being like, this is not a Japanese phrase. I've seen it float around. I thought it was this at first too, but it's actually from here and here and here and here. Anyway, I still think this applies to Spy Family because and everything. But I get the hesitation to not do that because the strength in the first place was that this is an aspect of Japanese culture that we can learn about more about, like Kisho Tenketsu, or the average everyday Shit. I forgot the name of it. Sorry. And relaying it to a Japanese term to analyze Japanese media. It's weird to talk about a Portuguese phrase or talk about the hero's journey, which I don't remember I don't know the culture that's from. It's like it might be Greek or Roman. I could be wrong. But taking a literary idea from a different culture and saying like, this is where it took it from, when the author probably had no idea about that. And so not making it, and so that doesn't make it as additive to Jaden, at least. Or at least that's what I presume is probably the reason why he didn't end up going forward with making the video. Or obviously that it's really the citation itself and like breaking that, the disappointment of that, being like, fuck it. I get that. But yeah, this makes you think, where it's like how much value we place on it being a Japanese term, and then it applying it to this Japanese media, as there's, even if they might not directly, the author doesn't directly cite that or in an interview or something, there's some logical plausibility that they took from that idea, and it's shown here. But like, it is just as easy to not, like, the author had no idea about that. And I wonder if there's ever an instance where a Kisho Tenketsu manga, Yonkama manga author, they just know the format and they never thought about beginning, setup, climax, like twist, resolution. Like maybe they've never even been taught that. Probably not. I don't know if that's been like a thing that they get taught in schools and that's it, everybody knows it. I don't know how ubiquitous a term that is. But even, these other Japanese terms, there's no, unless they say it, there's no way for us to really know if they thought about that or considered it at all. So it's hard to even attribute those sorts of things in that direct way, like, oh, they must be taking it from that, and that creates some sort of authenticity almost to what we're saying, to strengthen the claim that we're making, when I don't know, it's something that we see it. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, death of the author or anything like that. Maybe I am, where it's like, it's not, I mean, I think it's one thing to be like taking from them and being like, what did they see, for why did they choose to do this or whatever, and hearing from them, and another to be like, what did I take away from this? And I guess that is just death of the author. And it pretty much is just death of the author. I don't know. But yeah, I just was thinking about making a video about not making a video. I thought was very inventive and interesting, and the reflection of that, and just being able to put the cite your shit stuff in a more crystallized video for it, because we all reference it indirectly, but it's unlisted. I couldn't find it. I don't know where there is an instance where I was gonna link the site, because Gil was talking about it, and then Lex Torius replied like, oh yeah, I learned to care more about that because Shaves roasted me on the other thing. And I'm like, I wouldn't have cared about that if Joe didn't make this video. Let me go find that video. I can't fucking find the video. And it was just a tweet, whatever. I didn't care. I could have asked Gil for it or Joe for it or whatever, but can I get you? I didn't want to, but I can't link that video because I don't have the link, and maybe someone will DM me the link now that I have asked for it. Thanks. I'm gonna get like 5 DMs. Or no DMs, and I'm my L no, but like now it's in an actual like sending kind of video, and it's again also part of that canon of like it's so the difficulties of being right about anime, like it's a nice complimentary thing, and it's because Trixie's is more of like a personal difficulty and the personal journey, and Jaden's is more do this, and like when you have a situation where you need to cite things, there's 3 things you should consider citing if it's this sort of thing and everything. And it did make me reflect about my own stuff, where it's that line of like, do I cite that Makoto Shinkai directed Your Name, whatever. I was thinking about my latest video where I say Osamu Tezuka had a star system where different characters would perform different designs would perform different characters. I didn't cite anything for that, but I mean I could have, because I learned that from this book, but I also don't know if it's just in Japanese Wikipedia, how common of a knowledge is this sort of thing. And it's also parsing the things that I'm saying about Leiji in that I bring up that point to be like, he went much further, that like, he's using these characters in this way. My citation for that is like Japanese Wikipedia mentions him using the star system, but then it's my observation that characters are playing things out differently. They're showing up in different stories. Characters die in one movie but live in the next. How am I citing that sort of thing, where like this argument that I'm making sort of thing? It's tricky. I think it's I think it's just when you have a quote, source it. When you're like really taking from, it's like, I learned this is where I learned this information from here. It's easy as that. But when it's colloquial, then it's like, especially just recently, not to open some DMs and everything, but Steven just had recently asked me a question regarding something that I said once, and I won't say what it is or anything, but he's like, where did you get that? And I'm like, unfortunately, I got it from my boss who told me that. And and it's like, while we were working on this release and everything, and it's like, it's hard to give a definite source on that one, where it's sort of like experiential, like working in industry and stuff like that, and it's like they said it at this thing, or I was told this, or anything like that. So it's like, and I don't know what Steven will do with that information. He probably can't use it, is the idea. There's a lot of off the record stuff, right? You think about when people do interviews, there's stuff that's off the record, and the creator knows. And so like my boss has been doing a lot of these interviews, and so when something is off the record, he's he came up in journalism, he can't use it as much as he wants. He knows of it, and he might be able to try to get somebody on the record about this information, but some things you gotta let go. And it's just popped into my mind, and I'm sorry this gets really intense for a second, but there was I don't know too much about it, but I think there was an ABC News journalist who had the Epstein story about like who's in the records and everything, and they had certain people, and it got killed. Like the report, or like her investigation was nipped in the bud, basically. And she had all this information that's now out, like, well, since this has been published and everything, and she vocalized it either a couple of years ago or recently, where she's like, we had it, man, we had this, and we couldn't do anything with it, or whatever. They got stopped or whatever. That's the other thing with information. I don't know if it was this, if I'm repeating myself in this segment, or I think I said this elsewhere in Digest, but like it's I just mentioned it with the baseball thing. Um, it's just it's just sort of taking every bit of information about that we know about everything with a grain of salt, and this is what we've been told. Like based on this interview, this is reality. But that person could be spinning it in a particular way, or was written in a different context or whatever like that. So it is just sort of like, to what end are we saying these things? I'm saying a lot of stuff in my You Should Buy. So what this video really reminded me of with Cineclinic, what reminded me of is my You Should Buy Anime video. And there's sources in that one, but there's also a lot of stuff that I'm not sourcing. And I'm just kind of saying generally, it's just saying type of thing. And I'm certainly not, the things that I'm saying here in Digest, I'm not sourcing anything. So yeah, I get it. It's sort of to what end are you saying these things? If it's a video with other sources, I think, to me, if you have a video with other sources in it, you should have as many of the sources as you can possibly amass. Like, why would you exclude one and not the other? But if it's something like an off the cuff, like a discussion video or something that's like unscripted and whatever, I mean, try not to, or but it's to what end, I guess. And I also liked how often, like, he even made a joke out of it with how often he's using an editor's note and he's correcting himself within the video itself, and obviously poking fun at how often he has to do it. But I don't know if he realized how much of a meta commentary that felt, where obviously Jaden's trying his best in this very video, and he doesn't want to record it again, and he's facing up to the reality of, like, how difficult this stuff can be, but he still wants to be right. And the deep irony of, like, being, misattributing something or spreading information or doing something like that within the video where he's like, hey, don't do that, would be deeply, like, ugh. So I get the struggle there. And it ended up, the editor's note stuff ended up feeling a lot more prescient, and I don't know if prescient's the word, whatever. I feel like that's the third time I've said that. Sorry. Yeah, I just felt like a thing. I give up. It's over. I give up.
That's it.
Shit. Whatever. You know what I mean. I think you know what I mean. If you don't, DM me. It's fine. It's like, what did you mean by this? And then I have to interpret what I said. Which I've done a couple of times, where I'm like, I tell people, like, I have to interpret myself in Digest a lot of the time. Like, what I was trying to say is, and I can formulate a coherent sentence. Anyway, but not a run-on one, like this one. Anyway, like the video a great deal, of course. It's very valuable and funny and well-polished and excellent, a great discussion. And finally, we're talking about this new channel, Zimmerette, that I'm happy that Mercury Falcon was pushing. I guess it's from I guess they are an existing news or analysis, some sort of blog channel. I'm sorry I didn't check out the sources of that they plug in the video, so I apologize for that. When Gainax made Appleseed, from Daikon Film to Evangelion. Really like tight. Didn't have to be that. I liked how long it was, for like how like narrow in scope it was, because I think when you have like Appleseed, it's like, oh, we gotta talk about the manga, we gotta talk about the OVA, we gotta this was just about the live action 3-minute promo for Appleseed. Like, that's it. And the behind the scenes of it. And so a lot of it, because it's like, from a lot of it seems to be derived from the behind the scenes thing that they made, a lot of this information exists. It's just really recondensing and putting out this idea that exists out there, like, oh, they made this whole thing so you knew how this was made, but it's in a new digestible video essay type format. So I really appreciated and respected that. I think it's a great fill-in for this history that is very vague with Gainax, as everyone talks, I mean, including my Gurren Lagann video. It went from, like, Daikon, Gunbuster, Honomie's Gunbuster, then Eva. And I do show Appleseed, like, yeah, they were subcontracting on a couple of things. Like they were working on some stuff, but they weren't like the main studio. They could barely finish Nadia and the Secret of Blue Water, and they didn't make anime for like 4 years. Well, they basically didn't, because it's just co-productions, so like KO Beast or whatever. So this is just like a really great, and I like the through line, like developing that more with is Daikon Film. It's not just the Daikon promotional animation videos; it's the fan films that they made and talking a little bit about those and showing those off, and then deriving that from this Appleseed thing that they made and how they made it, the actors, and there's not much about these guys, and yeah, just filling in that bit of information that is really valuable and very uniform in a way that's like, I don't know, just utilitarian, I guess. And that's good. Those are good videos. I really like those kinds of things where it really gives you the deets, gives you the all you need to know about this sort of thing without really giving their opinion about it. And even like extrapolates, like, what do you need to take away from this? Making films with your friends is fun, even with if it's your job, and taking this opportunity and stuff. It's really cool that they allow. I like that one point in the script where, like, this isn't to say the 80s were better or whatever. Like this is just what they did, and this is just reporting on that sort of thing, and filling that information into, because it's 4 years, it's a couple of years, and so people do stuff with their lives in that period of time. Something must have happened in between the the things that they're known for. So yeah, this information was really great. I think it was presented in a really professional and economic way, and yeah, it was really, really great. Loved it. I think I would give the best video of the week, I think, because it was just so like uniformly like, yeah, it's what you do. Congrats on the debut. Okay, that'll do it for this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.